First of all, thank you for doing this.
Pleasure.
I was thinking back. Obviously, I saw the movie you were just in and the movie you were more recently also in. But I was thinking back on how rarely I see you in a central role. But I thought
Hmm.
back to I really like Looking for Kitty.
Oh, wow. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah.
I
Wow. I forgot that movie existed for a second there. Yes, Looking for Kitty. I love that movie too.
I mean it's the type of movie I like. Two people talking, sometimes a third, every
And
so
it's
often.
very funny. I mean, that
Yeah.
movie's
It there was that's the type of movie that costs nothing to make, but is the
right.
hardest movie in the world to get made, as you, I'm sure, can vouch for with this one. Like, we need no money. Oh, you won't give it to us. That makes sense. All right.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. It's a
Uh,
miracle that those movies get completed and made and seen.
oh yeah. And it's also just funny how the world works, right? You'll struggle to make a movie, you won't make anything for a while. Then you'll be in the biggest movie. Finally get
Right.
people to see this movie. Also, for a hot minute, you're everyone's favorite person on the internet. Just how
Right.
you planned it, right? That's how that
Right.
goes.
Totally deliberate.
Oh yeah, but I think it actually fits oddly well for the movie because the obviously you're not the character, but the character feels closer to who I feel like you would like people to see than, oh, my 10 things I hate about you character, my Santa Claus character. Like, yeah, I'm playing a part, I'm doing a job. Here I feel like you're in a way almost like saying something about that.
Well, that's a credit to Bob Byington, the writer director, who really encouraged me to play myself to whatever extent I could
Yeah.
through the lens of Lousy Carter. And that wasn't my initial instinct and how to play this character. And I didn't really have one, and I was kind of flailing. And he said, just play you, just be you, which ended up being wildly challenging in a weird way and involved some real vulnerability that I didn't necessarily always feel comfortable delving into, but always sort of produced something that worked. And I thought, oh, this is an experiment for me in itself, and it's past time that I've tried to do this, and
It
and uh, works. Yeah.
it's almost like going on a date, right? You probably should be yourself. That's what the other person's there for. But your immediate instinct is don't do that. No one wants that.
Right.
And
You're second guessing everything.
yeah, spoken by someone with expertise in that. I'll talk later. But no, it's true when you, especially for this type of movie, if you're playing, an invented character, you really have to know that guy inside and out. Otherwise, why are we spending the time with him? And if you're playing it as you would, we're spending the time because we want to spend the time with you. And I think if nothing else, you learned, your 5 minutes on Twitter, like, oh, people want to sit back and hear a story, no matter what it is. I think the storyteller is important.
Well, playing lousy was a journey of self-discovery as I made the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't know myself so well be prior to making that movie to justify playing myself. It was more, okay, I'm going to try my best to play myself and learn something about myself in the process. So much so I don't know if would have ever gotten to the point of doing the stuff on Twitter that I did had I never played Lousy Carter, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. And I think it ties in well because, Lousy is a guy who unfortunately more people than not can relate to, right? It's not exactly the A-list life, but it's a familiar life. And I think the stories you were telling are the stories that, like, listen, I'm not important, but like I'm in the periphery of the industry. You hear these type of stories, you get told these stories at a party. And it's interesting to see people who are used to only hearing, the gossip as opposed to like, no, here's what actually happened. It was all fun. Also, I was miserable a lot of the time. And guess what? That's the human experience, no matter what you're doing.
And to some extent, it was about demystifying the business, but also demystifying myself. Like I had spent so long focused on creating a mystique. If I play as many chameleonic characters as I possibly can and never really talk about myself or my experiences, people will start to wonder who the hell I am.
Yeah.
And when that didn't happen, when it turned out that no one gave two shits who I was, is when I sort of said, "Oh, well, let's demystify and let's just talk and be honest." And I have always had to maintain a perspective on this business in order to survive.
Yeah.
uh, that involves accepting the absurdity of it and the absurdity of my part in it. So I wanted to tell the absurd stories and talk about like how conscious I was in the moment of those moments being absurd.
Yeah. We
And and that's I think what people related to.
Yeah, because I say it all the time when people are like, oh my God, you watch movies for a living. I'm like, yes, it's the stupidest job in the world, but it's great. Like, I'm not complaining, but I realize it's not important. Like, nobody should really care. And it's sort of the same thing. Like, you're on a movie set, right? It's the what could you want more than like I get paid to make pretend? This is great, but also it's dumb and we're just people and like nobody treats us like people, but we're just people. And I think that's what the movie, even what Lousy is so good at here, is he sort of wants to be more than just that. He wants everyone to be like, I made a movie once, and everyone just goes, you're my teacher. Like, you're an adult. I can give you that. Like,
It has meaning. It does have meaning. You know, what we do has meaning. However, when we find out that it means stuff to people is when we sensationalize it and
yeah,
exploit it. And right now, we live in a wildly exploitative time where everything is capitalized on, including, authenticity. And, that's strange
yeah,
and not healthy, I don't think. And so right sizing it, taking it down a notch, and just telling the story simply is really important. Lousy Carter is a movie about a guy who probably got a really big head when he was successful, was a total egomaniac, abandoned people, treated people like shit. And now it's 20 years later, and there's a few people that have hung around that are left behind that have known him the whole time that have no problem telling him that he is and was a total dick,
yeah,
you know, and he owns it. There's never a moment in the film where someone says something disparaging to him and he goes, "Hey, that's not true." No, he knows.
oh yeah,
And in Lousy's case, the best part of his life, he's convinced that the best part of his life is behind him.
yeah.
So that when he finds out he's going to die in 6 months, it relieves him. And yeah, it's why gild this lily? Why keep living when it's not going to be any better than it was 20 years ago?
One of the best
Um,
news he's got in a while. He's like, all right, I can work
Best
with
movie
this.
we've gotten in a while, and that turns the filmic trope of, he's gonna die on its head. It's Joe versus the volcano, except he doesn't panic and go to an island in the middle of nowhere. He just continues to live his life with a little secret that he's dying, and it's kind of satisfying in a way, in a creepy way, and that's what he is and who he is. And so you're watching a rare thing for film, and that's what Bob Byington, the writer director, really specializes in, is giving you something rare.
Well, it's also relatable in a weird way. Not the dying part, but like going back to the mystique of like acting, right? If somebody comes and tells you, "Oh, I loved you in," and they name the 4 or 5 things that you hear a lot, it's nice. You obviously like it, but you wasn't you, right? I played my part well, thank you. But, praise for this, praise for things where you're really putting yourself out there, I think it hits that little inside of like, "Oh, you like me." And secret that everyone should probably know. It's nice to be liked. Like there's something about when people like you, it makes the day a little better. I think you see here, like his student, right? For all
Mm.
intents and purposes, is not a fan of him, but like enjoys continuing to be a part of that. And you can see it like working on him as he realizes, like, oh, I'm not scaring her off. Like I'm being me. She keeps coming back. I think I might have a new friend. Like it's never really acknowledged in the film, but the way the sparring kind of begins, right? And the way she'll put down an immediate thing he said, but then go, I'm just letting you know. Like just calling him on his shit, but then continuing on. And you don't see that in a lot of movies.
Right, she doesn't run away.
Yeah.
She sticks with him. She likes, it's he immediately becomes the submissive person in that dynamic.
Yeah.
She is saying, she is dominant, and he's the submissive, and it really works. And And he needs it. You get the sense that he needs that. He needs some sort of acceptance, and he needs to be put in his place, and he likes it.
Right. If you look at his world, yeah, it's a friend who speaks poorly of him. It's the friend's wife who, does a nice thing for him, but like not in a way that's particularly healthy. And, arguments with relatives
Yeah,
and the world.
he's a quintessential cuck.
Yeah.
He likes being cuckolded. He gets a kick out of it. And I knew that because I knew Bob Byington.
Yeah.
And I knew that this was sort of the closest thing to an autobiographical thing that Bob had ever written. And that when that Bob does this thing that he out goes out of his way to annoy the shit out of you and make you really angry so that you react, get really, really angry at him, and then he really enjoys that.
Yeah. You
He
read the
likes
script.
making people angry at him. He likes being in trouble. He likes feeling like he pissed you off. And I knew that's what he wanted to me to play.
He's a fun hang. It sounds like, when you read the script, you're like, so you just want me to tell Martin how to play me. Okay, I got you. We can work on this. I imagine once you're making it, it probably feels once you're in the rhythm easy because you're like, oh, this is a familiar rhythm. We're just trying to capture the thing we'd be doing if there was no camera. We've made a story, but like the rhythm does feel like people who have a friendship going and making a thing. And
Well, it did, it was certainly with me and Bob, but that was what was so wonderful about Martin playing Kaminsky is I'm so close with Martin and I've known Martin for so long. And there is there is the dynamic that the characters have in the movie between each other isn't necessarily something that doesn't exist in our actual dynamic. Um, I mean, Martin and I spend most of our time just laughing at each other when we're with each other. We cannot help but just start laughing for no reason. We just enjoy each other so much. But there is also this dynamic of like, hey, you sneaky bastard, I know you don't try to get away with anything. And
yeah,
on from both, it's mutual. We're
yeah. What else is friendship except making each other laugh and just enough of like you're a fucking idiot. Like you need
calling each other on our shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't accept it from someone else. Like if you had a boss call you into your office, you immediately have your back up. Like, I'll tell you why you're wrong. But if your friend goes, you fucked up, you're like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Like,
Listen, if you don't know me and you disrespect me, I'm angry at you.
exactly.
If you know me really, really well, and I know that you care about me and you disrespect me, well, I kind of love that.
Yeah,
You know,
like I've clearly earned it in some way. It's the same way that even in terms of like celebrity relationships, right? What's the best thing you can have in an interaction with someone who admires you or a fan? Someone who'll talk to you like a human being, right? As opposed to you're a deity. Even anyway, as just say something real. If make fun of me, like let's do that. Like I'll accept that. There's a connection there, and the movie actually does such a good job of that. Of like this is the way people communicate. It's not captured on film a lot, but this is how people talk.
right? That's exactly right. And Bob is really acutely aware of that. He doesn't like bullshit in movies. He doesn't like witty banter. He doesn't like jokes for jokes' sake. He doesn't want you to hear the writing,
No,
which is why he casts actors he respects who don't do that. You
nice.
know, yeah. So
I listen. I enjoyed watching you, and I am always
thank
keen on seeing you in a central role more. And also, I think we got the perfect amount of you on the internet, and then you pieced out on that.
you. Yeah,
Excellent decision. Internet, bad place. Not a fan of it.
you know what I'm doing.
Exactly. No, you definitely knew what you were doing. Got in, got out, and guess what? Everyone was a fan. Like, how often do you get 100% approval on anything?
No, it was crazy.
Yeah. Oh, congratulations on this. I
Yeah.
please more to come. You and Bob have a connection there that make more of this.
I will try. It's up to Bob, that son of a bitch. All
Yeah.
right.
Thank you so
Well,
much for doing it, man.
thank
Thanks,
you,
Joey.
man.
Awesome.
Bye-bye. Take it easy, Ryan. Thank you,
Thank you.
man. Bye-bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Brian.
Bye,
Uh,
Ryan.
all right. Have a great weekend.
Bye, everyone. Awesome.